So, hi everybody. I would just like to welcome today. I've got Nicola Dickinson from the Forest Bathing Company who's here chatting to me today. Welcome, Nicola. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you for having me. It's been ages since I've seen you.
I know. We were chatting just before we came on, weren't we, about how many years we've known each other, and we reckon it must be about a decade or more. So it was when Sophia's Choice was a green lifestyle blog, and we met at it was the Bournemouth Vegan Fair many years ago when you were doing different to what you're doing now, which was your other company, which was Fresh Therapies, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was doing Fresh Therapies. Before Fresh Therapies, I was a beauty therapist, all natural products. Uh, Um, Decided to bring my own to the market, and the hero product was the UK's first natural nail polish remover, which I brought to the market in 2011. And yeah, it's been ages.
I know, it's crazy.
Absolutely ages.
Yeah, yeah. So in recent the past sort of year or so, you've done sort of quite a change really. So you've kind of gone from that part of the industry and then sort of changed completely. And now you're sort of doing, you've now sort of set up the Forest Bathing Company and doing that. So I wanted to bring you on today to have a chat about that because I find this fascinating and I love walking in nature. So can you just give us a bit of background on what kind of led you to retrain and what forest bathing's all about?
Yeah, so as I say, I was beauty therapist for like 20 years and had my own little salon, then brought in the products with no idea how to do that sort of stuff. A company was making the product for me.
Right.
I did a first show, a trade show at Olympia or XL, I think it was. And it just took off from there. I was Most of my customers were other companies outside the UK. And I really just learned as I went along. I had no idea about the paperwork or shipping abroad or anything. So I had to learn a lot about that. And as the business grew, I was learning more and more, and then started to realize that I was almost living my life on my phone with
Mm.
all the different social media platforms where I had to be. Um, I closed down the salon side of it because the products got took more of my time, which made me more isolated. I always worked from home, sat at home, which in hindsight I could see that that wasn't doing my mental health any good whatsoever.
Yeah.
I was probably perimenopause then, didn't have a clue what was going on. I just thought it was solely work that
Yeah.
was making me forgetful and everything like that because I had so much to remember.
Yeah.
Um, when I went on holiday, I was constantly have to be on my phone to make sure, oh, there's an order coming, email my son, can you send this order out for me? Brexit came along, legalities changed as to paperwork and how you could send things. And it was like, I akin it to like being an accountant or something like that, because they have to, regulations change all the time. So you have
Hmm.
to go and learn new regulations. And it was the same with the cosmetics industry on that side. And the red tape was just like sort of strangling
Yeah.
me mentally and physically.
Hugely
And
stressful.
to be honest, I think I wanted to give it up at least 7 years before I did.
Really, as long as
I
that.
just completely fell out of love with it. Um,
Such a shame.
but it was like, well, what else am I going to do? I don't
Yeah.
know what else I'm going to do. And then um,
It's almost like that crossroads moment, isn't it, really, whereby you hit a point in life where you're evaluating everything and kind of going, okay, what do I want here? Because this is not making me happy. It's consuming all my time. But if I wake up in the morning and I don't want to do it anymore, then something's got to shift.
yeah, exactly. And there were, it was a mixture of that and I suppose menopause, where some days I'd just be crying because I couldn't keep up with the admin side of it, and I didn't want to. I'd no motivation to do it, and because I'd no motivation to do it, then it was gradually dying its own death, which is what I wanted, but not in that way. So that made me feel even worse. And then I kept seeing, I love watching nature programs and like Gardener's World and all things like that. Although I'm not a gardener in any way, shape, or form, but I'm learning. But I kept hearing and seeing forest bathing, little snippets here and there. And I was like, what is that? So I found out about it. I found a lady quite locally that was doing it, went on one of her sessions, and that was it. I was like, this is what I need to do. And it sounds a bit woo-woo to some people, but I'm that way. I don't sound woo-woo. I say I'm just woo. I'm just a little bit woo.
We don't mind woo-woo. I'm the same. I love all that stuff and fully immerse
And
myself.
then
So
it just kept dropping in front of me. I'd see things on Facebook, I'd see things in magazines. There was just the signs everywhere. And I looked into all what forest bathing is, and apart from the mental positive benefits of it, it ticked my boxes.
yeah.
I would get out the office more because you have to go and do the forest bathing. I would meet people. I could go on holiday and not have to worry about looking at my emails. I can do it when I want, I can do it where I want, and I didn't have to worry about any legalities of shipping this here, there, and everywhere.
So it gave you freedom then ultimately.
It gave me exactly what I wanted in my life and to change it. So that was it. I spoke to my husband about it, and he's been supportive all the way through everything, fresh therapies and everything. And he said, just go for it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't
Fantastic.
work, then you'll have to find something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And also if we, when you come to a crossroads like that, sometimes you just got to jump in and take that risk,
Yeah, and it was the fear factor and stepping outside the comfort zone, because I've not really stepped out of my comfort zone for so long. You get stuck in the career what you're in,
Yeah.
or you just get stuck where you are because it just feels so comfortable.
Yeah.
And your blinkers are almost on.
Yeah.
But then when I actually went on a forest bathing session, it was like the 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 barrier had been lifted, the curtains had been lifted, and I was like, there is something else I can do. I do have other skills that I can bring to this. I've not been using them
Yeah.
for so
Yeah.
long.
And sometimes when
And
we're so immersed in one thing, we become quite tunneled with it. And so therefore we often miss other things that maybe are around that, we could sort of pull upon or change direction with, because we're so fully stressed and focused on what's consuming us at the time.
yeah, and I knew I'd be good at it because from the beauty industry, I was always staying within the natural and holistic arena of the
Yeah.
beauty industry. So the passion just shifted from that side of the natural world into another arena of the natural world.
Yeah.
So I knew that I'd be comfortable there. I knew I'd enjoy it. And I knew that my brain would work with that.
Yeah.
Because with the cosmetic industry, I thought I was going to learn how to be a formulator, and I did try to do that, but it was too scientific for me, and there is a lot of numbers involved with calculations of making formulas, and I don't do numbers in any way, shape, or form. So that was another box that ticked. All I knew is like, this is how much a forest bathing session costs.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to worry about.
So
So that was absolutely spot on.
liberating.
It
So for
was.
anyone then, Nicola, that doesn't know or hasn't come across the concept of forest bathing, it's a Japanese, it comes from Japan originally, doesn't it? Can you describe what forest bathing is, what's kind of involved in a session, and how people can kind of go about sort of immersing themselves in
Yeah,
forest
so
bathing?
people may hear, as I say, through magazines, on the TV. It started in Japan in the 80s, so it's not that ancient as you think, coming from Japan, and it's called Shirin Yuku. And it's a mindfulness practice
Mhm,
of walking through the forest, immersing yourself in all of the senses as you're walking. And it's more of a meander. I mean, we walk at a snail's pace when we walk through the forest. It's in total silence. This is in small groups of 10.
mhm.
It's in total silence. Phones are off. And I ask people to take the phones out of their pocket so they can't even feel the vibration if any text. And same with your watches, your Apple watches, and that. It's all nice and in silence. So it's a mindfulness meander through the forest, and we work through your senses one at a time.
Mhm.
So we'll stop at one section of the woodlands, and it's better if it's done in an ancient woodland which is over 400 years old,
Because you're
because you
connecting
get
with
the
the energies
maximum
there.
benefits from there. And let's just say the first session is going to be, we're going to focus on the sense of sight.
Mhm.
Now, you may think, well, you just walk through the forest and you're going to see loads of different trees and things, which you do if you're taking the dog for a walk or you're going for a walk with a friend. You just,
Yeah.
oh, there's a tree, there's some grass, there's a bramble. But when you actually take time to stop and look intensely, really closely, and just focusing on what you can see. And I invite you and guide you how to use your sense of sight.
Mhm.
And all this is done while you're taking nice, slow, deep breaths. At the beginning, you may feel a little bit self-conscious because you may be with people you don't know. And you might be a little bit aware of maybe members of the public are walking past and thinking, what's that group of weirdos doing there, just standing there staring? But as you, because they're 2 hour sessions, some are 3 hour sessions. But as you start to immerse yourself more and more, as the next time we'll be doing, as we move on, and it'll be hearing, and then we move on again and it'll be sound, you just go into your own zone and you don't even really notice the other people around.
Mm.
And I'm constantly guiding you and inviting you to get the maximum benefits. And this is all done really non-judgmental. Like, if you think, when you take a photograph, you're in the woods and oh, there's a lovely flower there, let me take a photograph of it. And you might move one or two blades of grass out the way because you can't get the full. No, don't judge nature.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It's there, it's doing its purpose for the woodlands and for you. Things don't always have to be 100% perfect.
Yeah. And you're
Don't
fully
judge,
immersing, aren't you?
just be with things as they are, accept them as they are, and then you see the more beauty of it,
Yeah.
and you start to accept things. And that also helps you in your day-to-day life
Yeah.
as well,
Yes.
because as you
Losing
start to
judgment of
see
things.
things and you take things, and the more you, it's like anything, the more you do it, the easier and more comfortable it becomes.
Mm.
So
It's like using a muscle, isn't it, really? The more you use that, and it's that sense, that part of ourselves, that being fully present, which often we are not. And I know when I run my menopause workshops, we talk about mindfulness active meditation and being fully present in that moment. And in our busy modern lives, it's something we just don't do in the same way anymore. As you say, we're
No.
constantly on our phones, and we're not really seeing things, we're just passing by, you know.
Yeah, and people think, oh, they because they hear the word bathing,
Hmm.
they think there's going to be swimming, wild swimming involved.
Or
That
a lot of people say
there
it's just
isn't.
like
It's
lying on the ground and looking up, which I'm sure you can do as part of that, but it's so much
yeah,
more.
and it's there's no. I tell people that the forest bathing session is their individual experience.
Hmm.
You go as deeply into it as you want to. You let your emotions go as deep and let them out as much as you want to. If you want to hug a tree, hug a tree.
Hmm.
If you don't want to touch a tree, don't. There's a part where I ask people to pick things up off the floor if they want to, leaves, scrape a stick in some mud and really smell the earth. And I get it. Some people are like, I don't want to do that. There might be bugs and what's that? That's fine. You don't have to. And you can say, actually, I was okay doing what we was doing before. That's fine. It's your individual experience. You go as deep into it as you want to,
Yeah.
and as what makes you and keeps you feeling comfortable and safe in that space.
And I imagine as well, if the more you do things like that, if, say, for example, touching something is something that you just don't want to do, then maybe next time or the time after, you may feel more comfortable in immersing yourself in that part of the process. Whereas
Yeah,
before,
I had a
you didn't
lady
feel
the other
comfortable.
day. Yeah, I had a lady the other day, and for medical reasons, she couldn't bend down and pick things up off the floor. And I could tell by her body language that she didn't really want to anyway, because she was like, "Mm." So what I did is I picked up some dead leaves and mixed it with some earth and cupped it in my hand and said, there you go, now you can smell. She's still a little bit reluctant,
Hmm.
but she did it.
Yeah.
And she couldn't believe what the aroma that she got from
Yeah.
smelling the earth and the dead leaves, because she was thinking it was going to be unpleasant.
Yeah.
And she stepped outside her comfort zone and did that and was, oh my God,
Yeah.
that is something I didn't really expect.
No.
So again, it's like, don't judge a book by its cover.
No. And we're so disconnected from now, we seem so disconnected from nature that we're quite surprised by, as you say, we perceive things one way, but actually the reality of it is something quite different. And so it really is quite special to immerse ourselves back in connecting with nature and what nature offers. And it's immersing ourselves in the bird song and just stopping so that we can actually hear it rather than you know, just rushing through our day.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that people are surprised about, because the two locations that I use at the moment, and most of the locations that nearly all forest bathing people do, unless they've got private land to do it on,
Mm.
there's going to be members of the public. Sometimes they might be way off in the distance, but occasionally an aeroplane's going to go over.
Mm.
You can't stop that. That's just life. But when we've done a hearing exercise, some people will sit there with their eyes closed, and we do this exercise for about 7 to 10 minutes, and I'm bringing their attention to things and listen, like, for example, listen with only one ear, block the other ear, and then do it and see the difference that way. And then there may be a really loud bird song that's just chirped in, and I'll bring their attention to that.
Mm.
And we may do a sharing circle after the end of this small exercise. And did anything really stand out for you that was unexpected? And someone will say, yeah, that bird reminded me of.
Mm.
But then the next person will say, I didn't hear that. I was listening to whatever was scurrying around in those leaves over there. And an aeroplane's gone over and nobody has mentioned the aeroplane.
No.
Once we had some traffic, there was the real dullness of the traffic going past. And someone said that actually, after they'd been listening to that for a while, their brain transferred it into a soft sound of a river flowing in the background.
Lovely.
So it is, the more you start to relax, the more you start to slow your thought process down and really immerse yourself in where you are. Things just, you hear, you see, you smell, everything is different, and in a more positive way.
And from that, you're really helping to reduce the stress levels that we obviously are all impacted in on a day-to-day basis. And I imagine it's a great way to relieve things like anxiety and, you know, that those sorts of feelings that a lot of us, you know, walk through life with as well at the moment.
Yeah, so when we meet in the car park and we all do a little introduction, and I say to people, this is your chance to leave your daily run-of-the-mill life in your car. You've locked it in the boot of your car. You now need to you don't have to worry about, right, well, when I finish this forest bathing session, I have to go to the supermarket before I do the school run, and then little Joe has got to go to Cubs, and I've got to make sure, and just, that's all locked in the boot of your car. Don't bring that with you.
Yeah.
And people start to, oh right, okay, I this is me time. This is time to be nice and calm. And then as we start to walk into the woods, I invite people to do the deep breathing.
Yeah, breath
And this
work's
is,
really powerful.
breathwork's really powerful. And I'm connecting with another lady that you may remember, Claire Barker,
Right.
who has her own two skincare companies. She actually hit burnout in her process and has trained to
Interesting.
be a breathwork coach.
It's
But
really
the deep
fascinating, isn't it?
breathing,
How we all find our paths eventually to something that's almost like helping to complete us and to help sort our sort of,
yeah,
you know, situation out.
yeah, yeah. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And when you would say, when you go into the forest, so we've got what's called our sympathetic nervous system, which is what people will hear as the fight and flight thing, and that's your stress, and you're like, oh. But then when you come into the forest and you're deep breathing and I'm talking to you, getting you to relax and slow down and just notice things, my voice changes, then the parasympathetic nervous system kicks in, which will help you to relax, reduces the cortisol, and you just start to calm down. And by doing this, say with the breath work, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
Your whole body starts to soften, your shoulders drop, you walk differently, you hold yourself differently. And being in the forest with the trees, which people may have heard, it's becoming a bit of a buzzword now, like the phytoncides, which are the natural oils and essences of what the trees release. So it's another like aromatherapy session, really.
Yeah.
Because the trees all emit their own essences and oils, and we're breathing in them really, really deeply. And they interact with our nervous system, depending on where your blood pressure is, whether it's high or low. Might be normal, brilliant. But if it's high or low, it would just help to regulate that. It's amazing breathing in this fresh air, how much it can improve your focus and actually your memory.
Yeah. And also it's kind of, it's almost like it's giving you the forest and the trees are giving you a hug, they're giving you an embrace, they're sort of, and they are just reconnecting you to, I mean, we're all connected with that, and I think often we kind of lose sight of that. And so immersing yourself in that kind of experience and slowing everything down, you do feel a connection that maybe we just don't feel in our everyday lives anymore.
Yeah. And it's it helps boost our energy, and it helps clear our thoughts as well. And we have what's called is natural killer cells, which is a type of white blood cell,
Hmm.
and it helps boost those, which in return helps boost our immune system.
Yeah, so it's
And
all
it helps
win-win.
people with their sleep, whether they say, I don't sleep very well, I constantly wake, or I sleep well, but I have trouble getting to sleep.
Mm,
It can help in either one of those
yeah.
as well. Um, and when you're in the forest, and we do different exercises, shall we say, people spread out. You're not all huddled in a group. People spread out, and you start to some people have said to me they start to relate to, let's say at the end session, when it's the sense of touch. Most of the time I do it near trees, and I ask people to go to something that draws their attention. It doesn't have to be a tree, it can be a certain shrub or something, but just go to something that draws your attention. Now there's a reason why it's drawn your attention,
Mm,
whether it's the color, whether it's the shape, whether you think what the texture is going to be. It's drawn your attention for some reason or another. And people sometimes will start to really relate with that object, plant, tree, and internally they'll start to talk and relate to it. As when I first did it, I went to this tree and I was like, oh my God, I'm so like you. I'm getting old. I could associate the bark with the wrinkles that I'm getting around my eyes,
mhm.
but I could also associate with, there was moss growing on it, there was tiny little mushrooms growing on it. And this was at the time when I was just finishing fresh therapies,
Okay.
and I was like, I'm like that tree, everything is attached to me and I want it gone. I got really emotional. But people start having these conversations in their head. Some people
Mm,
say it a little bit out loud, but because you're having that conversation with yourself,
mm,
nobody else is there. Nobody, well, there are people there, but they're not nearby, because by this stage you're really spread out.
yeah.
You start to have that conversation with yourself, as if nature is your acting as your therapist,
Yeah.
and you give yourself answers that you knew anyway, but because you're actually now saying it to yourself and you're not reading that quote from a book, you're like, you end up, thanks,
Yeah.
thanks for that. And it helps you work through problems. So they say when you're in the shower and you're doing nothing, ideas and the answer
Hmm.
to things pop into your head. It's almost akin to that, because
Yeah.
you've got no distractions. It's just you, where you are,
And the tree.
there in silence with a tree, with a shrub, and you just have that meaningful conversation with yourself.
Which we don't do enough of.
You don't do enough of, because, as you say, we've got the phone, we've got this, we've got that. We just need to take that time, and even if you've only got it that little bit of time for 5 minutes, just noticing things more,
Mm.
standing at the bus stop for work. Now, I'm not saying you're going to have a meaningful conversation with the weeds that are growing around the bus stop.
You might do.
But Sometimes you get stressed when you're standing at the bus stop because the bus might be running late. All of a sudden it starts chucking it down of rain and you've not got the umbrella. That's going to annoy the majority of people. But if you just pick something with a colour or a shape and just zone in on that. Take your earpods out, turn your phone off, turn your back to the other people in the queue, and just focus on that one thing. And it might only be for 30 seconds, but for that 30 seconds, you have switched yourself into your parasympathetic system and just relaxed and calmed down. You're standing in the checkout at a supermarket and there's a long queue and you start shifting from foot to foot and you start, what's the first thing you do? Like, not a lot of people get their phone out and they scroll and they scroll and scroll, and you're still huffing and puffing because now Sheila can't find the barcode. Well, there's always stuff at the checkout. There was always something they're trying to get you to buy. Pick something out of your trolley, especially if you've got some fruit or veg. Pick that out of your trolley and just really examine it. When's the last time it's that you really looked at the stalks of your bunch of grapes?
Yeah.
And stand there and just close your eyes for a little bit and just feel the texture and give them a difference. Like, just smell them. People won't think anything because they're just thinking you're smelling it to make sure it's fresh. You're feeling it to make, so people are not going to look at you thinking you're a bit of a weirdo.
They might think you're more of a weirdo if you put it back on the shelf, but as long as it's in your trolley.
Yeah, but just doing those simple things when you're in the day-to-day irritable situations that sometimes crop up, and then you have no control over that unless you're going to walk away and leave your weekly shop there and start all over again.
Yeah.
So just all these daily, weekly things that we have to do to live.
Yeah. Just
starting to notice just for 30 seconds or a minute. And the more you do it, the longer you'll do it for. And then as we said earlier, you're practicing subconsciously.
Yeah.
And you'll just do it more often.
Present. Yeah. So for anyone that sort of says, well, I don't have a forest near me or forest baby, or I don't have a car or whatever, what other things can people do whereby they can sort of still have that kind of experience, but it may be on a smaller scale?
Yeah. So if you don't live near a forest, but you live near an open park, that's absolutely fine. There's always some trees, some greenery area there. That's fine. If you do forest bathing in an ancient woodland 400 years or more, and you're there for 2 hours, all those positive benefits stay with you, help your system for up to a month. If you go to a local park and you're around the green area and you're doing your deep breathing and you're just slowing down and noticing, just walking. You don't have to stop and start touching flowers and trees. Just walk more slowly and notice. Those benefits are going to stay with you for like a week. I don't have that. I live in London. I live in a big city. Then if you have got a window box or houseplants, there's so many different houseplants, we all know that, but each one will all have a health benefit of one way or another. And there is a book, and I can't remember the author's name, but it is called Plant Therapy, and that explains the different health benefits that plants can give to you. But we've got our house plants, and what do? We look at them. Most of the time, we don't even notice them that much anymore because they've been in that corner of the room for so long. We don't
Normally
even really notice it's there. It's literally, as they say, part of the furniture, apart from when we have to go and water it.
Yeah, or it's looking a bit sickly, and you're like, oh, I've forgotten you in the corner there. I need to actually,
Or you might give it a little bit of love and wipe the dust off of it every now and again. But you can use that house plant again to really examine the leaves, the foliage. 9 times out of 10, you probably just notice the top of the leaf have a look underneath
Mm.
and feel that leaf with your eyes closed, and run your fingers over the leaf in different directions and use different pressures. The back of the hand. People think, oh, we're going to touch things. You can touch things with your cheek. You can put things on your forehead. So just with a house plant, you can sit there with your eyes closed and just explore that plant
Mm.
slowly, different pressures with your fingers, allowing it to touch the back, the front, the side. And just by doing that, again, continue with your deep breathing as deeply and as comfortable as your body allows, you're there.
Mm.
Might
Mm.
only be for a minute, because then your phone rings and you go, oh, I wonder who that is.
Yeah.
But you've had that one moment where you've just like forgotten about everything else and you've done it.
Yeah, become fully present, and you're sort of, you're taking that sort of snapshot moment whereby, as you say, you can just calm everything down and switch away from all the kind of chaos and the madness of modern life.
Yeah. It is really can be that simple. You don't have to take 2 hours out of your day.
Yeah.
It can just be while you're drinking your cup of tea in the morning, rather you got your cuppa in the morning, and rather sitting there and scrolling on your phone, sit there with something that is attractive to you, the plant, a nice vase even.
Yeah. Could be listening to the bird song this time of year, spring and into the summer. We have so much beautiful bird song, and if you listen for it.
Yeah, and that's proven to listen to birdsong for 5 minutes completely relaxes you, slows down your mind, and helps to lessen the stress and anxiety.
Beautiful. So Nicola, for those of we didn't say where you're based. Your base is, are you
I'm based in Fareham in Hampshire.
in Hampshire? So for people that would like to immerse themselves in a full forest bathing experience with you, can you tell us a bit more about where people find you, websites, socials, etc. For anyone that's kind of, not come
Yeah,
across.
so across all the socials, now it's mainly Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Mhm.
I am the Forest Bathing Company. It's the same for the website, theforestbathingcompany.co.uk. And on the website, I do have 3 images that you can download free of charge, like mindfulness colouring.
Mhm.
And that's so there's just 3 A4 images that you can download, and just doing that colouring exercise again helps you slow down. So that's the forestbathingcompany.co.uk. On my website, I have 2 locations at the moment where
Okay.
I do them, which are quite local to me. Um, but I am looking to introduce some into the New Forest, so it's easier for people to get to on a train if they want to.
Mhm.
And I'm also going to be introducing soon what is called nature journaling.
Oh, that sounds
So
interesting.
people will, which is a short, it'll only be for an hour. So instead of walking around the forest and taking pictures with your phone and having a chat with Charlie, and then in a month's time, something flashes up and you go, oh yeah, I remember I was doing that with Charlie, and you flick through your phone. Instead, this nature journal, it is, you'll take a book, a drawing book, and you will have some pencils and paints, and you sit there and you focus on what's in front of you, what's around you, and you start to draw that snapshot. It's like a
Mhm.
diary. Instead of writing it, you draw it. And people, oh, I can't draw to save my life. You ask me to do a drawing of a house, it's a typical 5-year-old drawing of a square box, chimney, little bit of smoke coming out of it, and the curtains that go like that.
Yeah, remember it
That's
well.
I can't draw to save my life. But I said, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
People say, if you hear a bird song, well, I can't draw a blackbird. You don't need to. You can still do like the little kids, little M in the sky,
Yeah.
but what do you think that blackbird song would look like? So then you could draw what you think it looks like. And you're at the day in the woods with Charlie, and then that's your diary for that day. You don't have to keep going scrolling through your phone. And
Mm.
because you've done that in a nice peaceful environment, you're then being mindful, you're getting all the natural health benefits of the being in the outside nature as well.
Yeah, and
And
something to
again, you can
refer
do
back
that.
to.
You can also do that wherever you are,
Mm.
whenever you want to. So that's something to keep an eye on the website and my socials for as well, learning about
Okay.
nature journaling.
That sounds fantastic. Brilliant. Well, look, Nicola, thank you so much for giving me up your time today to chat about everything. It's been absolutely fascinating. Yeah, I really hope things go really well with the business, and that it's lovely to hear that you finally found something that you're really enjoying and that is kind of nourishing you and your sort of soul and your future journey, getting up in the morning and actually wanting to do, what we sort of, when we run our own businesses, it's really important, isn't it, that we wake up in the morning and we kind of, what we think about brings us joy and stuff like that. So I'm really pleased that you've managed to find something now that, allows you to bring happiness and joy, not just to yourself, but to other people as well.
Yeah, it's thanks for having me. It's been lovely. I could have gone on for ages and ages, but I whenever I start talking about forest bathing or I'm in the woods, it people say to me, "Your smile has changed,"
Yeah.
and it is. If you get into it, people will maybe start thinking you're a bit of a nutter because you're walking through the woods, smiling at something, and they're like, "There's nothing there. What are you smiling at?" But that doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It was lovely to talk to you. I could have gone on for
Yeah.
ages. I'm sorry if I rambled and went off
No, not at all.
piste,
It's been
but
absolutely fantastic. I've really,
it's
really
been
enjoyed it, and
lovely.
it's been
Thanks,
really,
Charlie.
yeah, it's been really good to catch up as well. So if anyone wants to connect with you, then so on socials, it's at the Forest Bathing Company, and on your website, it's www.theforestcompany. No, yes, theforestcompany.co.uk. Sorry, the
Forestbathingcompany.co.uk
Forest Bathing
or
Company.
.com.
That's a very key
Yeah.
word. Super. Oh, thank you so much, sweetheart. And yeah, I hope to chat to you again soon. You never know, we might do a part two.
Yeah, lovely.
All right, sweetheart. Take care.
Take care.
Cheers.